You're listening to Seven Horns AI, your AI-powered market update. This is your market wrap-up for Monday, June 8, 2026. Wall Street saw a mixed session today, struggling to sustain early momentum after Friday's sharp sell-off. The S&P 500 edged slightly higher, gaining about 0.3% to close at 7,405. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was essentially flat, losing about 0.1%, ending the day at 50,786. Outperforming both, the Nasdaq Composite posted a modest gain of just under 1%, closing at 25,929. This action represents a partial stabilization after Friday's 2.6% S&P 500 rout. Intraday, stocks opened strong, with the S&P posting a modest rise of nearly 1% and the Nasdaq posting solid gains of 1.5%. As bargain hunters stepped in, the VIX volatility index plunged more than 15% by midday, signaling easing fear. However, this early momentum couldn't hold. The S&P gave back roughly 2/3 of its opening gain, and the Dow slipped into negative territory in the final hour. The Russell 2000 Small Cap Index managed a 0.8% gain. Looking ahead, futures are essentially in line with today's cash close, showing no meaningful directional drift after hours. S&P 500 futures are up about 0.2%, while Nasdaq 100 futures are up nearly 1.5%. Dow futures are flat, matching their cash session. There's no significant forward-looking signal to report from these post-close moves. In megacap land, the picture was mixed. Tesla rallied sharply, surging nearly 4.5%. Nvidia gained over 1.5%, helping to anchor the Nasdaq's outperformance. However, 4 of the 7 megacaps, including Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, and Meta, all pulled back more than 1%. Apple was the weakest, declining nearly 2%. Amazon was essentially flat. Beyond the giants, Intel was the story of the day, surging over 11% after Google placed an order for more than 3 million tensor processing units, with reports also circulating that Nvidia is evaluating Intel's advanced packaging services. Micron rallied sharply, up nearly 10%, recovering most of Friday's brutal 13.3% drop. Marvell Technology gained almost 10% on news of its inclusion in the S&P 500. Applied Optoelectronics also surged over 11%, with crypto-focused Galaxy Digital soaring more than 21%. Today, Wall Street saw a mixed session, with the S&P 500 and Nasdaq posting modest gains, while the Dow was little changed. This comes after Asian markets sold off sharply overnight, with the Nikkei plunging nearly 5% and the Kospi experiencing a 9% drop, triggering a circuit breaker. However, the U.S.-listed Japan proxy ETF, EWJ, gained over 1% during U.S. trading hours. Looking ahead to the upcoming Asian Open, while Hang Seng futures continue to show weakness, down an additional 1.30%, the overall stabilization on Wall Street, particularly in technology, might provide some tentative support, though caution remains following that severe overnight downturn. On the macro front, the May jobs report, showing 172,000 new jobs, double the consensus, continues to fuel fears of sticky inflation and delayed Federal Reserve easing, keeping higher-for-longer interest rate expectations in play. Geopolitical tensions in the Middle East saw some de-escalation over the weekend, contributing to the VIX dropping over 15% intraday. Oil, however, still rose 1.6%. Looking ahead, volatility is expected to remain high this week, with key macro events including U.S. inflation data and rate decisions from the European Central Bank and Bank of Canada. We'll also be watching for earnings from Oracle, Adobe, and Micron later this month. That's your market wrap for today. This has been a Seven Horns AI production. For more insights, visit us at sevenhorns.ai. We'll be back tomorrow.